Hello there everyone, my name is Jessie and today I have a bit of a wild card for you, not gonna lie. This video is totally unplanned, totally unscripted, right off the dome, purely out of necessity. So I finished season 11 of Call the Midwife recently and I just have a lot of thoughts and I need a bit of a rant, and no one else in my life watches or cares about Call the Midwife, and I'm pretty sure that no one on the internet or anyone ever cares about Call the Midwife, but this is a good place to just dump out my thoughts because I feel like if I don't talk about them, I will literally never stop thinking about it. So yeah, here it is. Just in case you want to watch this video for some reason and you don't know what Call the Midwife is, don't know what you're doing here, but hi, welcome. Call the Midwife is a British TV show based on the memoirs of a midwife from like the 50s. It's basically a medical procedural. The midwives live in this convent in Poplar, England, and it's a very like working class small town, and these midwives come in, they live with these nuns, and they go out and do midwifery stuff. And every episode is basically they meet a new pregnant person who has some story or, you know, issue or whatever, and we follow that story arc for an episode. So Call the Midwife has been around now for 11 seasons. They're going into their 12th. And honestly, like, I think for British TV, that's pretty out of the ordinary. Even like for any TV, American TV, you know, that is getting into like Grey's Anatomy territory where you just don't stop. I mean, it's turning into like The Queen. Like, you just keep going until you literally cannot go anymore. So obviously when you're doing something for that long, like, things are gonna change. Most of the original cast has come and gone. They've cycled through a lot of characters. They've hit a lot of story beats already. The show isn't what it once was, which is to be expected. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I have some feelings about the most recent season, and particularly like the two most recent seasons, and I just wanted to get it out there. And so I've categorized this little rant or stream of consciousness, whatever you want to call it, into two categories, which is number one, things that are their fault. And by they, I don't mean any one particular person. I just mean the show as a whole, like things that went wrong that they could have controlled. And then number two is things that were not their fault. So let's start out with number one, things that are their fault. So the main thing that I would like to hit on is the overall taming of the shrew, if you will. Everything about the show is far less dramatic than it used to be. And when you're making a TV show, if no one is doing anything wrong and everyone's a perfectly lovely person, what are you watching? Back in the early days of the show, you would have plot lines like, ooh, Jenny's love interest just got another woman pregnant and now he has to marry her. Drama. One of the nuns is falling in love with the town's doctor. Drama. Chummy is marrying a cop. Drama. But now you're starting to get stories like, Nurse Corrigan was a teen mom. It sounds like it's dramatic, but when you actually watch it, all of the dramatic stuff happened off camera. She got pregnant in the past. She had a baby in the past. She was struggling in the past. When we meet her, she's already on the road to getting her life back on track because she's become a midwife. Even the baby of the week stories have gotten so much less dramatic. In the early days, it would be like, this married woman is having some other man's baby. Drama. Or like, this other married woman is having another other man's baby. Drama. And now it's like, oh, this young girl gave up her singing career for her daughter, but she was happy about it. Cool. Love that message. And just as a little case study, let's dig into that specific story, and I'm gonna walk you through what I thought was going to happen versus what actually ended up happening. So in one of the episodes, we meet a young woman who is starting to get her singing career off the ground. We find out that she is pregnant. And the only one that knows is her mom. She's trying to keep it a secret because, you know, an unmarried mother is not going to be very attractive to the entertainment world at this point in time, which is like 60s. She has informed her mom that the father of the baby is this boy who is now in Germany with the army. The war's over at this point. I don't know what he's doing in Germany, but I don't want to get too far into the weeds and make myself sound dumb as hell. But anyways, he's not around. So immediately, my mind is going to like, we have a Bridgerton situation on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We have an unwed pregnant woman, and we have a faceless soldier in Germany who is the father. To me, that sounds like a scapegoat. This man who isn't a character is the father, but who has actually been a character in this story so far is her manager. So I'm immediately like, the manager is the father of this baby. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not what happened. The story goes that this girl's mother calls the soldier and spills the beans, and he comes back from Germany and marries the pregnant girl. And she has the baby and decides to give up singing to take care of the baby. And that's it. And it was just so disappointing to me, honestly. Not only was there no drama, but the moral of the story was like, give up your career for a baby. And I understand that the whole point of the show is like babies and motherhood, and that's kind of the themes we're working with here. It's like called Midwife, dumbass. But I don't know, I just figured we're getting into the 60s, maybe we can start working towards some more progressive stories and more revolutionary ideas here, but shame on me, I guess, for wanting more. Another like totally random thing that happened and just was like gone and forgotten about in 2 seconds was in the episode where they were collecting donations for like a drive to raise money and stuff. They found unexploded bombs left over from the war in the donation bin. And it was like, holy shit, there's an unexploded bomb. Call the bomb squad. This is serious. It was a 5-minute sequence where they all stood outside. They exploded the bombs in a controlled manner, and everything was fine, and nothing came of it. And there's just so much more stuff like that that happens for seemingly no reason. You know, normally in a TV show, when you're telling a story, things happen so that you can deliver some sort of message, or have some sort of character growth, or have some sort of interesting outcome. Every time they start to do something interesting and are like so close, they just drop the ball. For example, let's talk about Nurse Anderson for a minute. So Nurse Anderson is engaged to this guy, Cyril, and their entire relationship has had "I kiss dating goodbye" written all over it. I don't think we've actually ever seen these two characters kiss on screen before. I don't even think we've seen them hug before on screen. Like, they're more conservative than the Duggars. Like, I've never even seen a side hug out of these people. So when 3 days before her wedding, Nurse Anderson falls on the stairs because she's a little tipsy, and she gets this like insanely bad black eye, like so bad, like I think she needs surgery. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's the time for their relationship to blossom. Obviously, it's really ugly, and she doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want the wedding to go forward unless she can fix it. And Cyril is literally talking to her through her bedroom door, saying, I don't care how you look, like, I love you. And I'm like, okay, here we go. She is going to let him in. She's going to let him see her when she's all ugly. And she's going to realize that she doesn't have to put on this perfect face, and she can be herself in front of her fiance, and their relationship grows deeper because of it. But what happens instead? She shouts through the door that she doesn't want anyone to see her, and he just goes away. You were literally knocking on the door of an interesting plot line, an interesting resolution to your story, and just walked away from it. And it's stuff like that that is just so frustrating to me, because it's like, it would have taken an extra 60 seconds, 90 seconds to complete that loop and have a satisfying plot thread, and you just totally dropped it. Now, moving on to things that are not their fault, and the main one is the dreaded COVID. There is nary a person in the world that hasn't been affected by the pandemic and restrictions and lockdowns, and television is no exception. And so I don't fault anyone for having to have some wonkiness due to COVID and having that being kind of prominent. I have just never been so frustrated by the clear COVID restrictions on screen. But for the past 2 seasons, seasons 10 and 11, the characters are literally not allowed in the same frame as each other, pretty much. It is to the point where they stage scenes where a husband and wife are talking to each other about a very emotional subject, and one of them is sitting on a couch and the other one is standing across the room, and they're just talking to each other, and there's so much distance between them, and it results in so much weirdness and just a lack of emotion in the whole show. I don't want it to seem like I'm this, COVID's not real kind of person. I'm probably more careful about COVID than 90% of the population right now, at least in America. Like, I totally understand the circumstance. I don't begrudge them that, but it has just resulted in so much weirdness. And don't even get me started about when characters are supposed to kiss. They're trying to fool us with this shot, reverse shot, head covering head situation, but it is so obviously awkward and not real. So the other thing that was not their fault was cast absences. Helen George was obviously pregnant this season, and I don't mean that to be like, oh, she was obviously showing, or I could tell by looking at her body that she was pregnant. Don't do that, that's weird. Stop speculating about actresses being pregnant. I literally looked at her Instagram and she legitimately birthed a child around the time that they would have been filming, and you literally did not see Trixie from the collarbone down for the entirety of season 11. And anytime you saw anything below, she had a pillow in front of her, she had her giant nurse's cape on. It was just so painfully obvious that she was pregnant, and it just really affected the storytelling and the visual storytelling, because not only could she not interact with anyone else, but you also couldn't see her for half of it. They were hiding her away. And again, it's not their fault. They didn't get her pregnant. Tom did that. But yeah, as per the title of this category, it's not their fault, but it just all added to this atmosphere of weirdness. There was clearly something in the air, something wasn't right, even if you didn't know that they were filming during COVID or that Helen George was pregnant, you could tell that something was off. And in my eyes, the only way that they could have scored points for me was killing someone. Let me explain. Spoilers for the end of season 11 of Call the Midwife, if anyone gives a flying fuck, but the last 2 episodes of Call the Midwife are centered around this train crash that Dr. Turner, Sister Julianne, and Nurse Corrigan are involved in. So Nurse Corrigan makes it out of there immediately, and the whole last episode is basically just like, will Dr. Turner and Sister Julianne survive this accident? And the whole time, it looked like they were setting up that Dr. Turner was gonna die. He and Timothy, his son, had just gotten in an argument. They left things on bad terms. Not super bad, because again, there's no drama. It was basically Timothy was like, Dad, you need to treat me like an adult. I'm an adult now. I do kissing. Please stop treating me like a child. That was it. And he was a little pissed with him. But in the context of the show, like, they left each other saying, I fucking hate you. You're the worst. And then Sheila, who is Timothy's stepmom, was talking to him after the fight, and she was like, Timothy, your dad would die for you. She doesn't talk like that. Nobody talks like that. If you had the chance to change your fate, would you not yell at your dad before he died in a train crash? My apologies to the whole of Scotland for that one. But yeah, like, Sheila literally said, your dad would die for you, as he's getting into a train crash. So you're like, that bitch is dead. And don't get me wrong, I love Dr. Turner. He's a great character. I would have been super sad if he had died, but I would have respected them. And it just felt like this whole 40-minute episode was just flapping about, being like, are they gonna die? And it was like, no, nobody died. Literally nobody died. Someone died, but we literally didn't know her and she didn't fucking matter. That's so mean. But yeah, the ending scene was just all of the characters getting together and taking a picture. And the vibe was just very much like, everything turned out happily ever after. The end. And you're kind of just left like, well then, what was the fucking point? But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. That's like the bulk of my thoughts. Let me know if you watch Call the Midwife, if this intrigued you enough to watch Call the Midwife. Honestly, I would recommend it up until the point where Jenny leaves, and then I feel like the narrative thread is complete. We've tied everything up, and you don't really need to watch after that. But I'll leave you with the most valuable piece of knowledge that I have gleaned from watching Call the Midwife, which is don't have babies because it fucking hurts and it's not worth it. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye! If you had the chance to call a midwife, would ya?